RPG a day, day 9. Let's see what's today's question. What is a good RPG to play for about 10 sessions? And this kind of made me chuckled because if you've watched my earlier videos, especially the one where I talk about pacing, pretty much all of my campaigns are about 10 sessions, like somewhere around 10 to 15 sessions, because that this is pretty much a question about basically if people are used to playing open-ended campaigns to where the kind of pace of having a 10 session long campaign would be something different, like what would be a good game for something like that. I want to try it out type of thing. But for me, whether I'm running D&D, which is often considered a very open-ended kind of a game to play, and whether I'm running anything really, from all the way from like Vampire the Masquerade, D&D, anything, it's pretty much always this kind of same kind of pace, because that's how I write stories pretty much. I don't write like strict scripts or like railroad players too hard on a story or anything like that, but the kind of an arc of a story that I come up with in my head has that kind of beginning, middle, and end. And the pace that I usually have the story going forward during sessions, it lends itself quite naturally to something like 10 to 15 sessions. So for me, I'm really not good at giving recommendations on which game or campaign setting would fit that kind of a pace, because for me everything does. I admit that with games like D&D and such, it's very there's not too much character level progression in that sort of thing, unless you're doing a lot of time skippage things and that sort of thing. Where oftentimes when you play a campaign with that sort of time span, you sort of go into that dance knowing that the characters you're going to create are going to be pretty stagnant in terms of their stats. That there's not going to be a huge, off point where they'll start just soaring and so forth. Like the D&D campaign that I run right now follows a kind of a different kind of pattern, where I kind of come up with something like 3 to 4 session long stories that are knit together, so that it's like this ongoing open-ended thing that kind of is formed by this chain of short stories kind of thing. Like mini series kind of thing. But usually the pace that I come up with is kind of like a season of a TV show, where it's open for further seasons and stuff, but that this current story, this season, ties up in a neat little bow, and it's nice to, you could leave it at that if you wish. But I was looking at this question, and I was thinking that Runeslinger and others have kind of mentioned that if a question kind of seems like you don't have too much to say about it, or it's something where you're struggling with it, feel free to kind of modify and come up with your own questions. And he even posted alternate questions on his blog, So I was kind of thinking, this, since the last question was about 2-hour sessions, what about 10-hour sessions? Because this question was about 10 sessions. I thought about, what about 10 hours? And that's when I kind of pulled this baby off of the shelf, because the best thing I think about the Song of Ice and Fire RPG and what makes it unique and different are two things. It's the creation, the intricate, detailed creation of your own noble household. So if you were running something that's kind of short and something that that has a very clear oh, I need to leave for my bus in a couple of hours, so let's play something quick. That's not the game to play. And also another thing that I like is the emphasis on social dynamics and the kind of social conflicts, to where the game has a mechanic that's very similar to combat mechanics, but it's combat done with words, where intrigue and persuasion, intimidation, charming other people, and all this sort of stuff is done very intricately, and because it's such a focus of the campaign setting and the stories of the Song of Ice and Fire, you can approach it the same way, where somebody might not know anything about fighting with a sword, yet they want to play a character who can fight with a sword. So you have a mechanic where they don't have to be able to represent sword fighting historically accurately. The same way in a game that emphasizes a lot on intrigue and social stuff like that, a player might not have the tools to, actually be, witty and charming and charismatic and or intimidating and anything like that. So the mechanic is there to, help you with that, make it like a focal point of the game. So I was just thinking that if there ever was a game that really benefited from a long session where you spent pretty much the entire afternoon, or you spend the entire day, when you have your off day, you don't have any work or anything like that. As soon as you're done with your morning rituals, just get to gaming and be done with it after the day is done, kind of thing. I would love that kind of stuff myself as well, and I think the Song of Ice and Fire would be perfect for something like that. So yeah, there's my answer and my little adage to this whole question. So yeah, there you go. See you tomorrow for question 10. Nice. Really love the stouts.